But what would you say are the 3 to 5 most important activities?
So for a branch ops, and I always like to think about, we don't have a branch ops person in every branch at Mayor. We have them in the larger branches because the responsibilities are really kind of divided between the branch manager and the branch ops guy, gal, whoever. And for the ops person, if you have one, it's really they manage the back office, if you will. So it's anything kind of behind the
Mm-hmm.
scenes. It's not the frontline selling activity, but it's delivering on the promise that sales makes to the customer is the simplest way I can explain it. So it's fulfilling orders, it's receiving material, so it's the warehousing of our goods. It's also the delivery aspect, the shipping and delivery to make sure that stuff goes out on a truck on time, that we have a routed path for the truck driver to follow. And then it's all the operations for the business from maintaining our safety standards and the work environment to make sure the place is clean, well kept, the lights are on, that kind of stuff. So those are probably
Mm-hmm.
three big buckets. It's order fulfillment, warehousing, and then all of that, compliance and building and operating a business kind of things.
Yeah,
Most branch managers will tell
paying
you,
the bills.
yeah, it's everything from unclogging the toilet to taking care of a customer. So it really,
Mm-hmm.
that full spectrum is there. Is that enough for you with those points? I know you know some of these things, but
Yeah, I
does that give
think
you?
because what I'll do is then I'll break those in down to those specific task statements
Yeah.
of so
So we
like with
can.
receiving.
That's what
Um,
your next point is on this thing. We can go into that if you want.
yeah,
Okay. So
just for each of walk me through the specific task.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with order fulfillment. So as
Okay.
you know, the who, what, how, and why. The who is, usually it's a warehouse associate or it's maybe somebody at the counter, and depending on the reporting structure, they may or may not report to the ops manager. What they do is they go pick the material in the warehouse. They go out. They have a ticket and they collect the products, um, put them on a cart, package them for the customer, whether it's a will call, a delivery, or a UPS shipment or something. We send it out, and then why we do that is obviously we have to fulfill the order for the customer. So that's order picking. The receiving is again, it's we've got an associate in the warehouse, and depending on the size of the branch, they may or may not be specialized into the receiving department. They look at what's coming inbound on a day. When the truck backs up, they have to get the material off, do inspection. Um, they use receiving documents and other tools that we have. Some of them are electronic to process the material from the supplier's packaging through to the shelf. And then there's obviously computer work that some is done after the fact if there's discrepancies, problems, things like that. And the why we do that is we got to get that material in and on the shelf so it's ready to sell and be fulfilled on the next order when it comes down the line. One of the other ones was the shipping piece, and again, that's a customer of or an output of the order picking process that somebody picks the order and they give it to make it ready for a truck delivery. So the truck drivers have a manifest, all the orders that are going to go out. If we use routing software to plot a path for those deliveries, we do that. And then they obviously stage material in the truck and then they go drive and make deliveries. And when you do that, there's obviously an element of customer service because our drivers are in front of the customer more than anybody. So they have to understand their role in representing the company. They make sure the material's right. They get the customer to sign for proof of delivery, make sure everything's okay, and then they obviously move on to the next delivery. One of the other ones was, so kind of the building, paying the bills and processing
Mhm.
invoices, and we have systems to do those things, but it's also keeping good files and how to categorize the financial elements into GL for accounting,
Uh-huh.
getting checks processed. There's time and payroll, and we didn't mention this earlier, but obviously the performance management of all the associates that work in the operation for the branch, that making sure that people are at work, they have good work habits, coaching, training, all those other things as well. Does that give
Okay.
you what you needed in that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, what do you think are some things that aren't daily but are critical to the job?
So, first thing I thought of when you said that is like events. We have counter days and things that come up.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes, operations doesn't have a huge role in that, but part of it is being accommodating to customers, to, again, being a good representative of our business. And then there's obviously some things that go along with it, with positioning material, making room. We haven't had lunch tables out in the warehouse on those days. The other thing
Yeah.
is, big changes that we go through. Think about the conversion we did last year for Schneider. There was a huge operational element of that was involved in coordinating material, influx, staging, returns, all kinds of things that went along with it. And then the other one that I think about, it's a more frequent, but it's not an everyday, is the VAS stuff. And it's becoming, it depends on the operation, is sometimes more every day, but it's just another way to handle what we do just a little differently, for the value added services, staging material, labeling, pulling, off-site, job site management, things like that, which I know you're intimately involved with.
Yeah, those are good. One more I think I thought of was PI.
Oh yeah, that's
the
in the, yep.
so much to PI. Not that Charlotte's doing it, but it has been a thing. I like this next question, where it's, what do you think significantly is going to change in the next 3 to 5 years, or 2 to 3 years? What do you think for that role?
Well, the biggest one that's on the horizon that I think is going to impact most of our larger operations is obviously warehouse management and digital integration, with using tools rather than paper, electronics rather than paper, to process, capture, and direct workflow in our operations. Some of those things we've already seen come through, like the delivery tablets, so that customers sign versus a piece of paper, they sign on a tablet. But I think, there's always the horizon and thought of, robotics in operation. Will we have robots or drones inspecting in the warehouse, doing physical inventory? Will we have drones that make delivery, or we have some other kind of autonomous delivery that can be done? Or would it be something like using crowdsourcing, like an Uber or Uber Freight, to deliver material? Or I don't know. There's so many potential areas for digital transformation in our business. It's everything from, I heard about from Duke Energy, they put all of their SOPs on tablets. And when they have they're doing an inspection in their warehouse or in a nuclear power plant, they go through and they'll tap through in an app or in a PDF, and they fill out their information there, and it takes them step by step right through the prescribed process, rather than somebody having to go to a computer, print out paper, So for us, I think there's opportunities like that to make more of our paper-based processing electronic. I think we're going to do things that take decisions out of the hands of the worker so that they can be more productive. Warehouse management is an element of that, but I think there's a lot of burden that comes with decision making in any kind of process. So if we take those things out or refine the process so it runs very smoothly, productivity should increase with our human capital. There's a huge unknown about how AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning are going to impact our operations. And some of that will be around the planning of our inventory, how much we keep, but also where things get placed, what orders are expected. There's a whole bunch of stuff that can come around that potentially can shape what we do in ways we can't even really predict.
Yeah.
Something else to go back to, I just thought of when I was talking on number 2 and number 3. Really, another big part of that is process management. It's SOPs, compliance. We mentioned the monthly checklist, but that's part of what an ops manager is there. Is they're the first line of defense for process compliance in our operations as well.
Okay. Let's look at the KSAOs for someone to perform this job.
What is it?
Like if you wrote resumes.
What's a K? I see knowledge, skills.
knowledge, skills, abilities, and O is other. So personal factors, interests.
Oh, I see it on the
factors.
sheet right here. Okay. Okay. So what are the traits or abilities we want in people that we're bringing into this role? I would say, obviously knowledge of our business is important, but I think also general knowledge of business or warehousing is important. Order fulfillment, those kind of things. Skills, yeah, skills. It's really about understanding how to direct people. The performance management side, being a good manager, ethics are in there, bouncing around in your different buckets, and also
I'll
yeah,
wiggle them around.
they obviously need technical capability for computers. Basic understanding of that kind of stuff is important. As far as there's physical demands and things we could get into too. Because if you're going to be an ops manager, you're going to be working in the warehouse from time to time, doing things out in the yard with pipe.
Yeah.
All those things are part of it. And then part of what I look at in the makeup of the people, it has to be someone that is in general interested in organization. If being organized is not something that interests that person, that really might not be the fit for them, because there's so much around things being in a good order so that we can execute more fluidly, and kind of coaching that among your people. I think about the Warehouse 101 thing you put together. That's a very foundational item, but it's all about creating order and organization in an operation so things flow. I also think, people that generally that get good satisfaction from working hard. And that may not be something that appeals to everybody, but for me, I think that's one of the things I love about that kind of work, is that you go out there, you get your hands dirty, you feel a sense of accomplishment, and you get something done. And then this really is a thread that should run through everything. But I think the role of service, that operations exists, like I said in the beginning, to keep the promise of sales. So we work for the sales organization. We're an arm of them, and it's sometimes you have to swallow your pride a little bit and be willing to, okay, this is for the greater good. I'm going to do this, and not get caught up in, well, I'm cleaning up somebody's mess or somebody else made a mistake. It's a we point of view that you really need to have when you're working operations, because we have to make it happen. At the end of the day, that's really what we're there to do.
Well, and it makes me think of how you used to always say, there's hunters and gatherers, and sales are the hunters. That's how we eat,
Right. If they don't kill anything, none of us eat.
Right.
So our job is to sharpen the spear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. You do listen. How about that?
I do. What about when someone is not performing the job well? What does that look like? I like that, because I can give examples.
Well, we put things into two big broad categories, right? There's work habits, which are things like coming to work on time, being prepared, not kind of drifting from your task, being too social. You need to be focused and on time, that kind of thing. But there's also, there's a lot of metrics we use in the warehouse, and we have to be careful about some of them, and you've seen this yourself. If we measure people and make it public on quantity, quality suffers. If we get overly focused on quantity, or the amount of work that can be done in a day, suffers. So we have to have a balance of those two things, but developing good standards of performance that say someone that works in order picking should be able to pick X number of lines a day is a good benchmark. And then you can look at your team, use objective data to say, here's my top performer, here's my bottom performer, and my capacity. The normal person in this group should operate around this range. So if you have somebody who is way underperforming, or honestly way overperforming, you want to look for tampering there to see if maybe they're making things look better than they are. But that's a good way, I think, an objective way, because anytime you're measuring people, you want to make sure that you're not being overly subjective. You want to use good objective antecedents or data to understand and compare, so that it's again, you're not singling somebody out for some reason other than, again there's a performance problem. But you also see, I don't know. It's funny. I think you probably have this realization too. You can meet someone and watch them work for about 10 minutes, and if they're going to make it.
Yeah.
Because if it's a warehouse job, there's a certain level of bounce in their step or willingness to dive in and not wait for somebody else to do it, but to be proactive. And what I mean, there's a general attitude that comes with it, that their willingness to jump to be good. And then we obviously look for things like people who make a lot of mistakes, or there's more than usual errors. And then safety is a big concern too. If we have someone that's going to take too many risks, that can create problems for them and also other people. So we got to be careful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. For the ops manager role, what kind of certifications, licenses, education
Hey,
do you think?
I want to back up one sec. Question 7, Emily, is that about? I just described the workers. Were you really looking more for the ops manager?
It's for the ops manager.
Oh, let me add something to that then, because I can give you an example of an ops manager that was not performing the job well. That it's, those commitments and things that I talked about in the beginning. We're not keeping the promise of sales. So we're not delivering on time. Maybe we don't deliver the day or within the time that they want. Or it could also be, we can't find material. Things are in disarray, so we're not managing our inbound put away process well. The team is suffering. The other thing is that if a lot of people are just standing around doing nothing, that manager's not actively engaging with them and keeping them involved. And then something I alluded to earlier, process compliance. We have audits that come through, and we'll check on the branch process.
Yeah.
And if the branch ops person is not doing their job, those processes will be out of whack. It'll be pretty obvious. So monitoring that is pretty important, and we have an instrument to do that. And to give you an example of a really poor performance in operations, we had an ops manager a few years back that they were basically pencil whipping or just putting their initials on everything on the ops checklist, thinking that's all they had to do. But they weren't actually investigating any of the processes to see what was going on.
Yeah.
And every one of those things is there to protect us from either it's an asset management, risk management, or customer service concern that we need to ensure in the operation. If they're not doing those things, it's a clear indication. So that's what not performing in the job would look like.
Yeah, that's where it would be found in those customer service sales, those non-compliant.
Yeah. It's their responsibility. They do delegate some of that, but they're ultimately responsible.
Yeah.
So the number 8.
Yes, the education. I wonder, can someone do this right out of high school? Do they even need a high school education? Do they need a degree to be an ops manager?
Yeah.
What would you think are required?
The minimum requirements at mayor for any supervisory position is you have to have a high school education. College degree is desired, but not required. And also we look for someone who has some experience in our operations, and it could be sales or the warehousing aspect of what we do. It's usually about 5 years. And obviously we would love to have somebody that has experience in both sales and operations, because again, they bring a perspective that they have a greater understanding of the entire process, and the importance of service and all those things. So there really aren't any. Trying to think if there are industry certifications like certified electrical professional, and there are some warehousing certifications you can get through work and other things, but and there's also safety certifications and warehouse or forklift certification, things like that, around safety that they would do. But as far as licensing, no, I don't know of anything. And yeah, hope that sums it up for you.
Okay, I didn't think about forklift. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Forklift. I thought maybe going through Edge, the real basic electrical one.
I would look at that as if I had 2 candidates and they were equal in every way except one had Edge train, that may help me. It may sway me that they have some product knowledge, but I don't really think product knowledge is essential in our warehousing. I think it's a nice to have, but honestly, if the warehouse is set up right, people don't need to know what products are. If they can find them, pick them correctly, accurately. I honestly believe that's a misnomer in our industry, that you need to understand product to work in the warehouse, and the only way you'll get out of the warehouse is if you understand product. You don't learn by osmosis. You have to actually get trained on product to learn
Yeah.
it. Just being near it doesn't help you understand what a connector does.
Yeah, just picking it up.
Yeah.
All right, looking at number 9.
Yep.
What do you think people can learn from on-the-job training? Like, does an effective ops manager have to come in with all this stuff, or can they learn it on the job?
They don't have to come in with it. In Mayor, we look at attitude, skills, and knowledge, right? And the skills and knowledge you can teach somebody. You can teach someone skills and they can acquire knowledge. But attitude is internal. It's up to the person. And I'll give you a perfect example. Derek Hudson, who came to work for us in an entry-level role, and ultimately, he's come up through the ranks and now he's in a district operations role. He came to us with no experience at all. But Derek's general attitude and work ethic and the way he pursued learning, none of that other stuff was important, because we know anything you can give him, he's going to learn. So if you find the right attitude, you find the right willingness and work ethic, those other buckets we can fill on our own. And honestly, those folks don't have to unlearn another way. They can do things our way. So in some ways, I almost prefer a blank palette. But you can't deny, you look at guys like Doug and Charlotte. He came to us with a wealth of experience in operations. He's lived and breathed it for years, and he came in, it could be effective day one. So two ends of the same spectrum, two great people. But I honestly believe great people are going to succeed no matter what. So I still think, like the organizational thing, if Derek was really great, but he couldn't organize anything, he probably would have a hard time. So that might be one of those personality trait, kind of personal values that is key for this kind of work, that I think it's kind of a pass-fail thing. If you don't have it, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah. Okay, hang on. I wouldn't worry about number 10 because I have the QJR. I know how the performance review goes.
Yeah.
And especially since, in Dayforce, they're rolling out the new performance review.
Yep. And we're going to, at some point, we'll build some additional metrics around that in the analytics tool. But yeah, I typically use the QJR during performance reviews. And then for an ops manager, I would definitely use the checklist, to make sure they gauge their understanding of the topics and, again, are they taking care of business? That's really it.
That ops checklist will be perfect to write my task statements off of. And then, because then I also have to rank them. Once I have my task statement, I have to go through and give them. Oh, it's so funny. It's just like the OJT checklist where you you rank the frequency, you do the importance, and then you do the math.
Yep. Awesome.
It's funny.
Well,
cool.
if there's more you need, Emily, just let me know. We can follow up. But
okay.
Like I said, I'll send you the recording of this, and you can go from there.
Awesome.
All right.
I appreciate your time, Scott.
All right, I'll see you.
All right. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.